And here we are.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey Mel, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good, good to be back. We had a week off last week, but yeah, good to be back and streaming our thoughts about all sorts of stuff to whoever wants to watch and listen.
Yes, last week I had some work travel. It's been a while since I had work travel, so I'm really grateful to be vaccinated and able to do that again.
Yeah, well, I haven't got any coming up because I'm still in one of the states with a lot of infection. So we're the pariahs. We're not allowed anywhere at the moment. So, well, not easily anyway. So, no work travel coming up for me. Which I'm kind of getting to the stage where I'm thinking, oh, I'm probably ready to get on a plane again. So anyway, um, but work is a good thing for us to talk about today because you and I've both been talking about work, the world of work, and stuff that's going on. And I've been sending newsletters to my newsletter list about my thoughts on work. What's on your mind?
Well, we've been seeing a lot of the buzzword around sort of resignation, and you came across something that you shared with me where they termed it the great attrition. And what I really liked was that they paired it with sort of the opposite. So if you are a leader right now, if your organization is big and looking to attract talent, there's kind of this attrition or attraction happening. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are you seeing in terms of attrition and companies losing talent?
I am seeing now, let me qualify what I'm about to say with where I work. So I work in organisations and I'm a gender equality, workplace gender equality expert. So I naturally have a lot of feedback that I get from women. So I am seeing movement this year in amongst the ranks of women that I know, particularly senior and executive women. So number one, I'm seeing that. Now, if there were a statistician looking, they go, well, how does that stack up to other years? I go, look, I don't know. I haven't done the comparison, but it feels like there's some movement underway. I'll also say that I have been a little skeptical about this great resignation zeitgeist that's going on. And I did post something on LinkedIn yesterday that pretty much said, I think there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that is calling out what has been crappy things in workplaces, particularly for women, for a long time. But there's now a platform to call it out with, including voting with your feet. I guess those macro forces that are at play, people have had time out of workplaces or out of offices to think about how do I want to do life and leadership and work. We've now got a skills shortage across a whole range of sectors. So it's an employee market. So there's demand for employees. And just those two factors alone, frankly, would be enough for me to go, is this place working for me anymore? And if it's not or hasn't been, well, okay, I guess I can not write my own ticket, but I've got an opportunity here. So, this great resignation, which is predicted to hit Australia in March. Certainly there's been somewhat of a lift in the US around movement. But I think, people go, well, what should we do? I'm going, well, 2 years ago, you probably should have done something. But if you want to get into remedial mode right now, you've got to start looking at leadership, at culture. And another thing I posted yesterday, which was, how do you create a sense of community, connection and psychological safety for the humans in your workplace?
Right.
I often think that the whole human piece in people leader perhaps hasn't been a priority.
Well, yes, I would agree with that, especially in certain sectors. So we're switching gears here now. So we're talking about if you're trying to attract and retain, and you're really going to invest in doing that, what does that look like? So, give us some perspective for the women, like the gender equity piece. If you are speaking to leaders in organizations that are really looking to attract and retain their diverse talent, what does that look like?
Well, number one, they need to understand what their culture is right now. and have a look at the people who are those culture carriers. You know, what culture, the way we do stuff around here, or the way people talk about us, that's your real culture. Yes, you might have a poster with values and this is our vision and a mission, but what is our real culture? So for leaders, I'm saying, I want you to listen. I want you to really build a listening rhythm into your leadership duties. I'm going to call out an executive in one of my client organisations, Rob C. You know who you are. I'm running a coaching series for about 300 leaders in this particular company. Every second week, we have an inclusive leadership coaching session. Anyway, but one of the first ones, we talked about this exact stuff. People leader. We're actually leading people. That is our job. Yes, there'll be widgets and this, that, and the other. And I'm not being disrespectful to widget makers, but there's stuff to get done. But people. And Rob, I love, because he stepped in, he said, the very first thing I do when I schedule every week is make sure I've got my catch-ups in, and everything else works around that. And sure, they might have to shift and change, but his number one priority was saying, how do I check in with my team? How do I have a conversation? Sometimes it'll be about the task list, but more often than not, it'll be about the human, and how am I supporting that human to reach their full potential here in this organisation. So Rob C., you know who you are. That is great advice. So number one, listen. What is the culture of your organisation? What is it really? And you're going to have, and if people want to know more about that, message me about my 5x5 strategy. That's a really great technique to get to know what's going on, particularly for women or other underrepresented people. So build listening in, regular listening. How do I figure out what's really going on here rather than what I've been told? And then schedule. You've actually got to schedule people leader stuff, human interaction stuff, and those are the basics. I think people who are leaders who are going, I've got some flight risks here in my organisation. There's never been a better time to start, but start and keep it going. You've got to sustain this stuff. Can't be just let's do an engagement survey once a year, figure out how people are, and away we go. It's not enough. So listening, really listening, and figuring out how do I make sure my people know that I'm their people leader.
I love what you said about a listening rhythm. So listening is something that's got to happen with consistency on an ongoing basis. It can't be something that's just with a once-a-year check-in. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and the consistency is also around inviting people, so asking to be invited. That's all. So when you're talking with us, I am trying to learn more about the organisation, what makes it great, what could make it greater. Would it be okay if you and I had a conversation about that on a regular basis? And for me, that's always been a whole bunch of people who are one level removed from me, the people who report to them. So, skip level meetings, manager once removed, all that kind of stuff. But it's got to be listening. So you've got to learn to go, I'm going to hear some stuff that's going to make me feel a bit, perhaps not as happy as I was when I started this conversation, but it also isn't about generating solutions right there. And it's simple questioning. What do you see around here that could be better to make you feel better about working here? What could I do more of or less of? Or what could our organisation, so if you want to depersonalise, give a person an opportunity, what could our organisation do more of or less of to meet XYZ goals? I mean, naturally, I'm talking about women and diversity goals. So, if our diversity and inclusion goals were being met, what would it look like? What would it feel like and sound like around here? Those are the kind of things that you want to ask and then really listen to, and then debrief with leadership teams to go, this is what we're hearing. What do we do about that?
Right. For my engineering and perhaps other technical colleagues, I'd like to just re-emphasize what Michelle said about leaving the space to listen and resist the temptation to comment or offer solutions in the moment. When you're asking these informational interview type questions with your team members, it's really important to leave that space for them. Leave space for listening.
And it is, and that is that is a 21st century inclusive leadership skill. And it is something that can be learned, because when we first become team leaders or project supervisors, of course, we're issuing and guiding tasks, and we're probably doing more of the, I guess, technical stuff. And we are teaching people how to do stuff and keeping projects on schedule. The more senior you become, and I've got to say, this never too early, or possibly is too late, but never too early to start doing this. But really thinking, how might this individual human in my team, in our organisation, be at their very best every single day? You actually have to ask them, you can't assume. And sometimes it's simple stuff like, oh, gee, I wish, it's funny, I don't know why this memory came into my head, but I remember when in a particular call centre I was working in for Telstra, one of the things that popped up for us was our people on late shift. We had no on-site parking, which is no big deal, lovely walk down towards a park. But if you're leaving your shift at 8 p.m. at night, it's actually quite, as a woman, a little bit scary. And we started getting this absenteeism and people not turning up for shifts, and we just, God, what's going on here? Asked, listened. Well, guess what? It's actually really unsafe. I can't park any closer. I don't want to walk down there. So sorry, I'm just, this is an issue for me. Okay, so we got a security guard, and security guard did guided walks. What do you call it? Guarded walks, or, accompanied walks
Escort.
to cars. Yeah, escort. That's it. Yeah, every 10 minutes. And it was just, oh, hello, amazing. So just it can be sometimes things like that, or it can be some really big things. We know women want to have access to development opportunities. We want them they want to be seen and they want to be heard. So, open up the space, as my nana would say, Michelle, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in proportion. Open your ears, close your mouth, and really listen to what people have got to say. But you've got to do it consistently. One and done is not enough.
Right. Thank you so much, Michelle. So leaders out there, if you're looking to create a great attraction and avoid attrition, these are some of the tips that Michelle's got for you. But Michelle, they can hire you, organizations can hire you to come in and help directly in multiple different ways. Where can they find information about that?
Quite simply at michelleredfern.com, or pretty much any social media platform. I'm pretty ubiquitous. But Mel, I think there's you and I share every week on leadtosoar.com, which is our podcast, which people can see tickering across the bottom there. We share this kind of stuff every week. We want people to tune into that. Our last episode, which I keep saying, I think this is my favourite, but this one was a really good one, was about giving and receiving feedback. It is amazing how many people say, I just didn't have a one-on-one ever with my boss. I only saw them once a year for an annual review. I don't really get any time with my boss. They're really busy. So that giving and receiving feedback, there are ways to do it with women, but there are also ways as leaders that you've got to commit, not optional. So tune into Lead to Soar, because we give lots and lots of this kind of advice there too. Absolutely.
Oh, this has been a good discussion. Thank you for joining me, Michelle.
No worries. And we'll see what transpires with the great insert whatever, I don't know if that's an adjective or a noun or a verb, whatever it is. Whatever's going on, we'll see what happens. But leaders, time to act is now. All right. See you, Mel. See you next week.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.